All righty now. What is up, New Jersey and also St. Louis? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils and Locked On Blues podcast here at the Locked On Network. I'm your host, college hockey play-by-play announcer, Devils writer for Pucks and Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member Trey Matthews, joined alongside my friend Haley Taylor Simon, the host of Locked On Blues. Taylor, how you doing on this fine afternoon?
I am doing good. I'm excited to talk to you about the game, by the way. A lot has happened in St. Louis, so it's been kind of fun to talk about the Blues lately again.
It's been fun to talk about the Devils lately as well, and we'll get into that momentarily.
And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start this season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
But I guess my first question for you is what's going on with the coaching circumstance with St. Louis? Last December at around this time, they fired Craig Berube. Then they named Drew Bannister the interim head coach. They removed the interim tag, and now we're about a quarter of the way done with the season, and they've already fired him, and now they've named Jim Montgomery just days after he was fired by the Bruins to be the next head coach for St. Louis. Did I get all that right?
Yes, and the timeline, it's so crazy. So our head coach now, Jim Montgomery, he used to be the Blues assistant coach from 2020 to 2022 alongside, Craig Berube. So it's this whole crazy timeline, right? I mean, he was able to get the Boston Bruins the best record in the NHL a couple of seasons ago. And because the Bruins weren't having so good of a start, the first person to blame is always the coach, as we know in sports, not just hockey, but in all sports. So I personally, and I want to go back to Craig Berube, I hated the fact that they fired him. I believe that it was Doug Armstrong, who is the Blues' GM's fault for having the contracts that he had, signing the players that he had. It just was all on the front office. Craig Berube got your city, got our team the first ever Stanley Cup in Blues history. So he gets fired a couple of seasons later. Drew Bannister, who is the coach of the Springfield Thunderbirds, gets called up to be the interim head coach. I personally thought it should have been Claude Julien the whole time, but that's like a whole other conversation. So he gets called up. Bannister underqualified to be a head coach for a professional team in the NHL. He did a great job with the Springfield Thunderbirds. He actually got them to the Calder Cup finals, and he did a really good job developing these players that we see in a Jake Neighbors. And I think that the mistake that Doug Armstrong made was basically saying, oh, yeah, this was the guy that we wanted. I knew at the end of the season, Trey, when they kind of said, well, we don't know who our new head coach is going to be. We're going to take some time and figure it out. They were interested in other people, 100%. Now, again, Chief Keefe, who you guys have, could have been somebody that they were interested in. I don't know. But what I do know is if you were so confident in Drew Bannister, why not give him the head coach title right then and there at the end of the season instead of waiting a couple weeks later and then announcing it? So I knew this was happening. As soon as Jim Montgomery got fired, I said to everybody, I cover another hockey team, and I said to everybody in the press box, he's going to go to the Blues, no doubt about it. Him and Doug had such a great relationship. He was a St. Louis Blue, and he enjoyed his time here. So that basically sums it all up. It's a crazy lore, a crazy timeline, but it all intertwines. And somehow, yes, the Devils have some kind of connection because Craig Berube goes to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then obviously the former coach of the Leafs goes to New Jersey. I'm telling you, everything's connected.
I will say this about NHL head coaches. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. I believe they have the shortest leash of any major sports team in North America, because since February 2022, I believe 27 out of 32 teams have changed their head coach at least once. It's crazy.
Yep.
And I feel like the coaches, they're always the first ones to be blamed if things are going wrong, but they're the last ones to be given credit to if things are going right. And we'll talk about the Blues and their recent game against the New York Rangers momentarily, because that game might be the downfall for the Rangers. That might be a new low for them, and I want to get your perspective on it. But for any St. Louis Blues fans who are listening to this show, I just want to say I do have a connection with the Blues. I am currently a broadcasting intern for the Florida Everblades, which is their ECHL affiliate. So I've worked alongside a few Blues prospects, including Will Cranley, Anton Malmstrom, Jeremy Biakabatuga. I don't know if those names ring a bell to any.
We talk about Will all the time.
There we go. Will's an absolute stud. I love him here in Florida. So just wanted to give that sort of connection to the St. Louis audience. But before I talk about the Devils, in the Blues' recent game,
Yes.
they defeated the Rangers 5-2. Now, there's been a lot of rumors and speculation that the end might be near for the Rangers and they might become sellers. Can you just, round of applause, but might I express caution? Ranger fans are ruthless, but anyway.
I don't care. If anybody knows anything about me, you know I do not care about. I mean, I had the entire fan base of the San Jose Sharks come at me.
I've had the entire fan base of the Edmonton Oilers come at me.
Oh, same here. Offer sheets.
It's Oilers, Red Wings, and Rangers who I find the most ruthless when it comes to whenever I publish content. But digressing a little bit, the Rangers lost in embarrassing fashion to the Blues, and the end might be near. Can you please just give me a Spark Notes version of that game? What went right for the Blues? But from your perspective, what went wrong for the Rangers? Because the only time they made headlines was when Matt Rempe had a questionable hit. And I'm just like, what is he doing?
Yeah, that was it. So basically, to sum up this whole entire game, I felt really good on the St. Louis side of things just because you have a new coach, you have that new momentum, and they have Joel Hofer in net. And Hofer, he had 3 losses in his last 3 starts, so it hasn't been so good for him. However, they just came off of a really embarrassing loss against the New York Islanders, a 4-1 loss, which was not good. Anyways, in this game, what went right for the Blues? You had some new lines, and that is something that Jim Montgomery did. He wants to highlight these, star players. So you're going to have, Robert Thomas playing alongside of, Bushi. And I think the most important thing, too, is he's giving the younger guys a chance, which is why you saw Jake Neighbors in that first line. But anyways, this game really took a turn. So, yes, New York got on the board first. Whatever. Honestly, it was like one of those goals where you kind of knew it was happening. They put a lot of pressure on the Blues' defensive zone. However, Jordan Kyrou was able to pull through and was able to tie up the game. And then we even saw Zachary Bolduc with 2 goals in last night's game. He got his first goal of the season in that second period, and then he had his second goal of the season in that final frame. That is a huge thing for me because Bolduc has been somebody that really hasn't been putting on the heat lately. You obviously saw Captain Braden Shen score a really nice goal with a great feed from Perunovic, and then obviously Bushi with the empty netter. So to sum it all up, the Blues had dominance. They were attacking that New York offensive zone throughout the entire night. This was the best I've seen this team play. A lack of turnovers from the Blues, but turnovers from the Rangers. It's very opposite to what we see here in St. Louis. We watch the Blues play. We see turnovers. We see sloppiness. We don't see any chemistry. We don't see any passing. It was like opposite last night. So I know I kind of gave a very quick summary into the game, but every single player on the Blues last night played a fantastic game. And defensively, too. I know we talk about Ryan Suter since he's, 39, being paired up with Colton Parayko. I think he looks amazing. And I truly do believe as the season has been going on, we've just been seeing this defense connect more and more, even Perunovic's confidence. So, yes, to sum it all up, everything went right for the Blues. Nothing went right for the Rangers, finally.
Well,
that was a lot.
That was a lot, but I'm not going to complain in the slightest.
You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. You can join over 10 million users and sign up today. PrizePicks invented Flex Play, which means that you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. PrizePicks puts its member first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure when picks hit. I personally get my money through Venmo. I can withdraw it or I can deposit it. So sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like a Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. So this is what you need to do. You need to download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup.
All right. New Jersey. The Devils have a lot of momentum going their way. And I got to say, the first time that the Devils played the Blues last season, that's when the injury woes really started to pick up for Jack Hughes, because I don't think it was anybody's fault on the Blues side. Like, people were saying, was it Binghamton's paddle? Was it Folk being a little too aggressive? But Jack Hughes goes flying into the boards, and he dealt with a shoulder injury. He was sidelined for some time. He returns, but then he gets injured in January once again, sidelined for an extended period of time, and then he had to get shoulder surgery at the end of the year. And it all originated first matchup against the Blues, like early November. So I'm a little nervous because I really don't want history to repeat itself. And at around this time last year, this is when the Devils really started to go downhill, especially with the injury to Dougie Hamilton. I've touched heavily about that subject on my show. But right now, according to Bill Spaulding, play-by-play announcer for the Devils, something special is brewing with this Devils team. They've won 5 of their last 6, including 2 big wins against the reigning Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers in Sunrise, in front of a hostile environment, 3-game winning streak. And do you know anything about Mariano Rivera, Haley? I know you have ties to the East Coast.
Yeah, a little.
Well, the Devils are like the Sandman. They know how to close out games this year. They are 13-0 when leading after 2, and they're 14-0 when leading within the final 5 minutes. So I'm just going to say, if the Blues don't have a lead after the second period, or if they don't have it tied, that game might be put to rest. Knock on wood. But the Devils are phenomenal when it comes to closing out games. And we could talk about Nico Hischier. We could talk about Jack Hughes.
Hat trick.
Yeah, he had his first career hat trick.
I know, after 7 seasons.
Well, the thing about Nico Hischier is that he's always been a good offensive player, but he's really taking it up a level this season. But people are going to say, like, wait, he's a former first overall pick and he now has his first career hat trick.
They're hard to get, people, like, hard.
Well, let me just say this. Nico's job is to play a two-way game. His first instinct is to not shoot, or that's what it's been like in the past. His job is to set up his teammates. He's a very good player when it comes to playing both sides of the rink. So when people say, like, yes, it took him long enough or something like that, I get it. He's not Jack Hughes. And Jack Hughes is not Nico Hischier. They're two completely different players. Nico, like I said, his job is just to do a little bit of everything. He does face-offs well. He knows how to shut down a top line on the opposition. He knows how to get his teammates involved. Nico is the consummate professional.
Yep.
And there's a reason why he's the captain of this team. And he's also just a very nice guy. I don't think I've said this on my show. I've said it on social media, but I was in Tampa Bay covering Devils and Lightning, and I go to the locker room after morning skate, and when he sees me, he extended a handshake, was smiling, and asked me how I was doing, and I even asked if I can interview him, and he promptly said yes, like with no hesitation. So he's just a really nice guy overall, and I've always enjoyed interacting with them. But yeah, I mean, that's the Devils' big three in Jesper Bratt, Jack Hughes, and Nico Hischier, also Dougie Hamilton, Timo Meier. They're all stars. But what I've been the most impressed with, oh yeah, you have right. Past history?
No, it's, you know what it is, honestly? I think that just certain players are just so good, and then you're like, oh, I won't have to see them as often. And then it's like you face them with the team that they're currently on, and it's like, oh, hello again.
Well, Timo's been great in a Devil sweater. And right now he has a hearing at the time of recording, he has a hearing for the cross-check he had on Zachary LaRue. in his defense, LaRue was ruffling his feathers a little bit, and I guess that irked Meyer, but he got a game misconduct. He was ejected from the game, hit the showers early, late in the third period, but we'll see what happens. I don't have official word on that quite yet, but hopefully it's just a fine. We'll see what happens. But what I've been the most impressed with from New Jersey is their overall depth. Like Eric Holla had a good showing in the previous matchup against the Predators. Stefan Nason, he's been phenomenal. He's one of my favorite players to watch on the Devils roster, if not my favorite player. He's been great. Just his net front presence, his aggression, and I knew he would be a vital X factor piece, but I didn't think he would be this good. He's been excellent. And Paul Cotter, he's been a surprise. Justin Dowling, he was thrusted into a role to replace the injured Curtis Lazar and Nathan Bash, and I think he's done that and more. And the goaltending of Jake Allen, former St. Louis Blues player, former Stanley Cup champion as well.
Had his 200th win the other night.
Yep.
Very happy for Jake.
Would you believe that he's the backup goalie for Jacob Markstrom?
It's funny how time can just change everything.
But don't let that fool you, Haley. He's still phenomenal.
Oh, I watch a lot of Devils hockey. But no, it is funny though. I mean, I'm always going to be a big Jake Allen fan. I mean, he was a huge part of this franchise for a while. But it is funny just seeing him in the Devils sweater.
And I thank the Montreal Canadiens for retaining half of his salary.
I know that was the craziest part about it.
The Devils should be sending thank you cards and also Christmas well wishes to the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, jeez.
Just saying. But anyway, up and down this lineup, this Devils team has taken a complete 360 compared to last year, because the only thing that was consistent with that Devils team was their inconsistency.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they've really turned it around, got some more aggressive bodies too. Like the Devils play fast pace, but don't let that fool you. They still got some brutes on their team, including Stefan Nason, Paul Cotter, Brendan Dillon. I don't think Curtis McDermott is going to play in this game, but you know he's not afraid to drop the mitts. They got some big players on their roster now to protect their stars. But this sort of transitions into my next topic, which is, what are you expecting in this game between the Blues and the Devils? Because the thing is, like, the Blues did get a win with Jim Montgomery for the first time behind the bench, right?
Yep,
That was the
first time. And fun fact about it, when he played on the St. Louis Blues, his first time that he scored a goal was against the Rangers.
I did see that on social media.
I love when everything intertwines.
Me too. How can you not be romantic about sports? But anyway, what are your expectations for this game? Is this a turning point for the Blues? I know they missed the playoffs last season. They were the first team out. They're not that far off from being a 500 team. Do you think we're going to see a different Blues team in this matchup against the Devils?
No. I'm going to be honest, no.
Right.
So the reason why with the Rangers, I felt like the Blues really could succeed is because the Rangers are a bit of an older team. Now you have the New Jersey Devils, who are one of the younger teams in the NHL, but they also have the speediness about them, and they don't get fatigued in the final frame. So when I look at the St. Louis Blues team, listen, they're the same team that lost 8-1 to the Canadiens, right? Which was really bad. They got demolished by the Senators. Like, they can't find these wins against teams that are not so good. The New Jersey Devils lead the Metropolitan with 32 points under the Carolina Hurricanes, who the Blues just lost to, who only have 31, right? So the reason why I bring this up is, as much as I want to say, oh yeah, the momentum of the Rangers game is going to carry on, I expect there to be some things that carry on. And, you know, I expect there to be more momentum, obviously. I think Binner will be in net. But do I think that this team is going to have enough time to truly adjust their playing style to a team that is faster than them, that can shoot the puck? Shoot the puck. Yes, key words, shoot the puck. The Blues did that last night, 42 shots, but it's not enough. And that's the problem. The Blues struggle in the power play. They struggle in the penalty kill. They struggle overall. I believe, though, anything can happen, but I'm looking at this and I hate to be so negative, but everybody that watches Locked On Blues knows I'm going to keep it real. If I said to you, oh yeah, they're going to continue on this momentum against one of the best teams in the NHL right now, That is right. One of the best teams in the NHL right now. I would be foolish to say that. So that's just my 2 cents.
Wow, at least you're honest about it.
I love the Blues, like big fan, obviously, but this is what happened last year when Craig Berube got fired and they brought in Bannister. The Blues did well for a little bit, and everyone was like, "Oh, this might be the solution." Coaching changes happen, momentum builds, but there's still parts of this team that need improvement, like the turnovers.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Like, there's just so much sloppiness, the passing. There's a lot that they need to work on. So, at least for me, it's really hard for me to go into this Devils game and just be like, oh yeah, new slate, when it's still the same players.
At least you're honest about it. Now
he's out, Bolduc's out, so I mean not Bolduc, Broberg's out, so that doesn't help on defense. I am honest. That is one thing. I'm very honest.
Well, I hope I'm not too optimistic, but similar to what you said, I think this is going to be a win for New Jersey, respectfully, because I think the Devils have all the momentum going their way and they're starting to click. One of the things that Sheldon Keefe has talked about that was one of the biggest issues for the Devils, not even just a week ago, was their lack of practice and rest days, because they started off their season in a different continent. And just like a few days ago, the Sabres played less than 3 games than the Devils. And for reference, the Sabres were the Devils' opponent in Prague. So once again, the scheduling was just completely messed up. I'm sure you've complained about it too. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense.
Every day.
Sometimes
every single day.
Yeah, you get it. It just doesn't make sense at times. So I'm just like, okay, I think they're going to, I think once they get that rest period, because they had a 4-day gap in between their game against the Lightning and the Hurricanes, they'll have 2 days of practice, 2 days of rest. And I think you'll see a different Devils team. That's exactly what we've been seeing the last few games. And you mentioned special teams. The Devils are lethal on both special team units. Doesn't matter if it's power play or PK. The Devils know how to work both of them. But I think their power play is the most lethal. And we saw them give Nashville the business in their previous matchup, because Nashville, they've struggled in a lot of categories this year, and they've fallen flat on their face. They've been one of, if not the biggest disappointment in the NHL.
I said this was going to happen. We did our NHL roundtable show with some of the people from the Central, and I said, I'm like, the Predators, they're not going to win. I just had a bad feeling about all those signings. I just did not think those guys were going to mesh.
Well, what do you know? You were right. Right now, they're
something.
Stamkos, Marchessault, Shea.
I cannot imagine, it's insane to me because those contracts are so long for some of those guys. Like the franchise is just in such a bad position if they don't get their act together.
Barry Trotz is going to have his hands full come mid-season if the Predators, are not in a decent position. He says maybe he'll blow it up, but you can't with those contracts.
No, it's too much money. It's too much.
Maybe you'll get a stupid team to take them, but I don't know. You can't blow it up. That's the problem.
No. Yeah, and that's the thing. And that's why I feel like in the NHL, we see so many teams that have potential of some players, but can't succeed because they have these stupid contracts that they can't get rid of.
But, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Going back to what I was saying, the Predators, they haven't been good in a lot of categories, but the PK ain't one of them. Going into that game against the Devils, they were ranked number 1. But the first minute, they put the Devils on the power play, and I don't think the Predators cleared it down to the other side of the rink, not once. Devils were dominant. They didn't walk away with the power play goal in that instance, but you knew that the Predators, you probably don't want to put them on the power play again. Then in the second period, Nico Hischier took over. One of his 3 goals was on the power play. So I think the Devils, with the speed they play, the physicality they also bring, how dominant they could be in special teams, and also just how good Markstrom and Allen have been in the net, I think this is going to be a tough matchup for Montgomery and the Blues. And I wish Montgomery the best. I do want to see some coaches have longer tenures with their respective teams, but I think he's going to get his first loss as the Blues head coach.
And touching on just, coaching in general, I mean, he did sign a 5-year contract, and I know that doesn't always have to uphold.
That's going to if history repeats itself, he'll be lucky to be with the Blues for 2 to 3 years.
Well, what I was going to say is, but I am hoping it stands, because that is the thing, is that there are so many legendary coaches in the NHL that do bounce around team to team. And it just bothers me so much sometimes. I'm like, I just wish that these GMs knew that their decisions cause bad things to happen on the ice.
I know. You're not going to see a John Cooper, I don't think.
No, definitely not.
A coach that's been around for over 10 years with the same team. And
so, I do have a question, though, about the New Jersey Devils.
What's your question?
So, obviously, we both kind of came to the same consensus. Hey, we think the Devils are going to win in tomorrow's contest, right? Hear me out. Is there a player on the Blues, maybe that comes to your mind, or maybe there's a player on the Devils that comes to your mind that you think could potentially play quite well together? And yes, I am talking about Face the Nations.
Oh, Face the Nations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what you're referring.
And that was my cryptic, kind of message, because Jordan Binnington, our goalie, is projected to be, this is all speculation, the starting goalie for Team Canada. So it kind of got me thinking, if Jack Hughes, ends up making, I'm just putting stuff out there, that
Jack Hughes
playing against. Oh, I know they could be playing against each other.
Okay, yeah.
That's what I was.
It could happen. I mean, I don't see any reason. I think players that are projected to play in the 4 nations are definitely the Hughes brothers for Team America, or Team USA, excuse me. Eric Haula for Team Finland. So those are some players that come to mind. I don't think we're going to see Dougie Hamilton play for Team Canada, just because it's too stacked.
But does that make you then, heading into tomorrow's contest, be like, oh, I'm kind of curious to see how they do against Binnington now that we might have, I know that you guys have seen him before facing Binnington, but now that this Face the Nation thing is happening, I wonder how it's going to look, maybe if, Nico or Jack or any of those guys take some shots on Binner,
Well, that's actually interesting that you brought that up, because Nico Hischier went up against his idol, Roman Josi, in the previous matchup against the Predators, and both of them are the only 2 Swiss captains in the entire league. And we saw a great matchup, at least on the Devils end, with Hischier showing up his idol. I totally agree with what you're saying. I get where you're getting at. Personally, I don't know if it plays that big a factor, but it's definitely an interesting storyline to look out for. And I'm excited to see how the 4 nations things comes into fruition. Obviously, we're not getting an all-star game this season, but I think I think it's going to be intriguing, especially when you have these players projected to represent their respective countries. I'm looking forward to it. I'll just say
Rob Thomas, I think, for Canada too. Yeah, so we have a lot of Canadians on the Blues, by the way, like a lot of Canadians.
That's the case for a lot of hockey teams, but yes, I get what you're saying.
Well, with the Devils, though, I feel like it's more kind of like spread out. We have a couple Swedish, but it's not that much. We don't have any Russian. It's just we're bougie. Well, yeah, actually we do. But yeah, no, we don't really have that many spread out. But it's an interesting thing to think about.
Yep. United States, Sweden, Finland, and Canada. Those are the teams that you might see, or those are the teams you will see
And Face the Nation.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
face the nations.
But, it is cool, though, because with the Devils, though, I feel like this is a challenge for the Blues and a team that they're gonna have to really fight for. And they did beat the Maple Leafs, and I know the Maple Leafs haven't been playing that well, but the Blues can turn it on. So it is exciting. And I also enjoy seeing competitive hockey. And I feel like that's what we're going to see tomorrow night.
Yeah, so I think it's definitely going to be an interesting matchup between the Blues and the Devils. I think the Devils are going to come out victorious. We'll see what happens. But Haley, we talked about pretty much everything from Blues to Devils. Any closing thoughts?
Well, other than hopefully this is Jim's second win as a head coach. But if not, let's just hopefully see some more producing from that first line and second line, because I was really pleased with what I saw last night. And thank you again, Trey. This was fun.
No problem. And how can I forget Jesper Bratt, Team Sweden? How can I forget about the best player in the NHL? If you don't get what I'm saying, that's an inside joke on Twitter. I don't know if you're familiar with. Okay, you get it. All right.
Yeah.
Inside joke.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Good. We'll leave it at
We'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that because I don't know your thoughts on Brat Pack, but I don't have a problem with him. He's my guy, but I don't want any bad blood. So
I'm indifferent at this point. I'm like, oh, it is what it is.
All right, we'll leave it at that. But yeah, so how can I forget? Yeah, the best player in the NHL, Team Sweden, or Jacob Markstrom, Team Sweden. He's having a good year. I don't know. We'll see. But like I do to close out every episode, continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey, and also St. Louis. I will catch you in the next episode of Locked On Devils. Haley will catch you in the next episode of Locked On Blues. Thanks for listening once again. Special thanks to Haley for taking the time to do this crossover.